We are joined now by a very special guest. He's a basketball analyst for ESPN and the SEC Network, also a former NBA scout. And we'll get to that a little bit later. Jimmy Dykes. Jimmy, this Arkansas team you followed around a lot. What have you seen from the men's basketball team? Obviously, their run ends in the Elite Eight, but just how great of a run has that been for them?
Yeah, what a special year. You can't put into words probably even yet what it means to the Arkansas program in terms of the momentum, the confidence now that I think everyone in the state of Arkansas should have about Eric Musselman and the direction that program's going. That was a very good basketball team. And I saw them at both ends of the scale this year, Nick. I saw them early in January when they did not look like an NCAA team. And Coach Muss said the same thing. They were not playing well. And anytime a coach can fix the problem during the course of the season and change the trajectory of the season like he did within the season, man, that's a sign of a great coach. And that's what Coach Muss did because, to get to that Elite Eight game and play just play their hearts out all year long, I think that's a tremendous compliment to Coach Muss, to his staff, and really to those kids because it's so hard, man, to bring in 9 or 10 new guys, blend them with 1 or 2 returning guys and have a real team. And Arkansas, their strength was, at the end of the day, their strength was how hard they played and how unselfish they were. And both of those things are tied to coaching. So that Arkansas program made a statement not only to the SEC this year, along with Alabama, but to college basketball, I think as a whole, that the Razorbacks are back and they're relevant once again. And that's really good for both the SEC and all of college ball.
And that was their strength, bringing these players in. That's Musselman's strength, being able to get such incredible transfers like Justin Smith. And also, obviously, one of the biggest changes was Moses Moody, who's just been a superstar. What did you see from Moses Moody's game? Just a freshman throughout this season, but, possibly, runner-up SEC Player of the Year, one of their best players, a potential one and done for Arkansas. What did you see from Moses's body of work this season?
Well, first of all, he is a phenomenal kid. And the NBA scouts that I have spoken with during the course of the year, because those NBA scouts, they've been limited in terms of getting out and watching guys live. So they're really digging in and getting information from a lot of guys like me that covered college basketball for a living. And they all know that he's a phenomenal person. And that's really big in that league right now. And that's in his favor going forward in terms of being coachable, being tough, having a great work ethic, never having a bad attitude, having a plan in life, not having any issues off the court. That's a really big deal. And Moses checks all those boxes. And at times this year, as a true freshman, he carried what was kind of an older Arkansas team when you consider the transfers and the age that they had to work with there. But he blended in really well with older players, which he's going to have to do at the NBA within his first couple of years. Shoots the ball at a high level, has a really good looking shot from beyond the NBA 3-point range. He shoots it with ease, which is in his favor. Defensively, there are some questions about his side-to-side speed, his lateral speed. Can he guard a big guard in that league and chase people off screens, which he'll have to do. He has not shown a lot of coming off the ball screen situations. He hasn't shown a lot of beating his guy one-on-one off the bounce and making a move and making a play. But he has shown a lot of versatility to his game overall. He's a good rebounder from the wing position. So we'll see. That he did not have the best of March. And some NBA scouts will put more emphasis on the last 3 or 4 games than other NBA scouts did. A lot of NBA scouts will say, I want to look at that whole body of work, and he was tremendous. I think Moses, 3 out of his last 4 games prior to the NCAA, he had 28-point nights. So are you going to look at that as an NBA scout? Or are you going to look at, but that NCAA tournament, there were some moments there where you're really not sure. So I think Moses is surrounded by really good people, will get really good information and make the best decision for him.
You were an NBA scout for the Seattle Supersonics for 3 seasons. You mentioned NBA scouts. What do they look for if they're basing it more off March or the whole body of work? What did you base off when you evaluated guys during your time as a scout?
Yeah, Nick, I was taught when I was doing the job to evaluate the entire year And then let's really look at how he did in the biggest moments against the best competition. He played in the SEC, which has tremendous NBA level athletes and NBA level size, and he produced in that league. So then you look at how do you do in the biggest games. Go back to their games, their wins against Alabama and LSU. Those are some really big moments, not only for Arkansas, but I think Moses played well in those games. But then you look at the NCAA tournament, and you have to think, okay, was he tired as a true freshman? Did he wear down a little bit? That's the other concern about Moses. He's 6'6", 205. He doesn't have great strength right now, but he has a nice frame that will build on that. So I think most NBA teams are kind of all over how they come about their decision. But at the end of the day, you have to project how's he going to be in the NBA 2 or 3 years from now. And I will say this. I was also taught this 25 years ago when I was a scout. The NBA stands for No Boys Allowed. That's a grown man's league. If you come in there with any type of kid or boy habits about you, you will not last long. And I don't think Moses has any of that. I think he's a very mature kid.
Mature while still being a teenager, right? And
Yeah.
and I think that's the big thing is there is still room to grow, right? You mentioned that there is some things he's got to prove defensively. What is a skill set to you that is really attractive of his to an NBA team that might be looking to pick him?
Well, his size at 6'6" is tremendous for a wing position guy, and his shot is really good. I don't know what he ended up on the year from 3-point, 35, 36%. But you look at that number and watch him on film, and he shot the ball several times this year at that NBA line, and he shot it really easily. So I mean, if you're going to make it in that league, you got to be able to shoot the basketball. I mean, those guys don't miss shots. I did one NBA game last year, the Lakers and the Nuggets, and it blew me away in person how well they shot the ball from deep. And if you can't do that in that league, you can't last long. So Moses has that going for him.
Now, the one thing I think people overlook or miss is the fact that yeah, half of it is what you do on the court, but also how you are handling yourself off of it. And you being obviously coaching at Arkansas, being around college basketball for so long, specifically in the Arkansas area, what impact has Moses Moody had just on this program in general in just such a short year?
Well, I think one of the biggest things he's done is represent the state of Arkansas in a first class manner. And when you grow up in this state and you wear that Razorback uniform, it means a little something extra to you. And I know it does to Moses. He's a phenomenal kid on and off the floor. But I also think what he's done is showed the recruiting world out there that you can go to Arkansas and be a one and done guy and a potential lottery pick. I think that's where he's still going to land. There's some question marks now about is he going to slide out of the lottery? I'm not sure about that. So much goes into that decision between now and the summer. But if at the end of the day he came to Arkansas, was not what he was a top 30, 35 guy, if I'm not mistaken. And he wasn't projected right off the bat as a guy that's guaranteed to be done after 1 year. I'm not saying that he is. He may come back. But he certainly proved you can come to Arkansas and be coached by Eric Musselman and improve as the year goes on, because he did. And Eric continued to go to him as the year went on. So there's a lot of good things that Moses did for the team this year. There's a lot of good things that he did for the program going forward because of the example that he set for younger players that might want to be a Razorback someday.
Obviously, you could declare for the NBA draft without hiring an agent and then keep that ability to come back to the program after testing the waters if you don't really like what you see, and take another year in college and try and develop for Moses Moody. So we'll see how he goes and approaches that. When you look and you talked about the NCAA, the tournament potentially affecting his draft stock, he could potentially be a one and done at Arkansas. To have that in this program, to have the ability to come to Arkansas, like you said, and chase an NBA dream, how special is that? And how meaningful is that to a program to get recruits?
Well, Nick, I think these days building your roster as a head coach it's changing right before our eyes with the number of transfers, how big that transfer portal already is, over 1,000 kids right now. that's going to drive college basketball going forward. And you have to be outstanding in terms of what transfers you bring in. Eric Musselman has already proven that he is that. He has that part of it figured out. But you can't just build your roster going forward, I don't think, off of transfers and sustain success. You have to bring in guys like Moses Moody, like Devoe Davis, like Jalen Williams, that are, those last two names I mentioned are 2 or 3 or maybe 4-year guys, tremendous college players. So you got to have the right blend on your roster going forward. I think you're going to see that in the Final Four this weekend. Those rosters are built with upperclassmen, older guys, transfers. I think out of the 20 starters in the Final Four this weekend, 8 of them came from the transfers. So that tells you right there the direction of college basketball.
And I want to get your take on this. One more question for Moses Moody, and then we'll jump around some other hot Arkansas topics everyone's talking about. Is this juggling act that if you're a one and done, you have to do? Is, should I leave and pursue my personal dreams? But then there's also that side of the fan base that wants you to stay so badly. And I think there was some moments on social media where after that Elite Eight game where there was some talk about that. Should Moses be chasing the NBA or should he be staying a year? How hard is it if you were to get into the mind of those players to say, this is a big decision, a life-changing decision. Do I enter the draft or do I stay another year? And especially when you have that battle of the fan base that doesn't want you to leave, how tough is that for a player?
Well, I think it all comes down to who is in your closest inner circle. And that's so important for a young man trying to figure out, is it time for him to hire an agent and go to the NBA? It's very important for everyday life. It's important for me, who's in my inner circle every day. Because I have decisions that I have to make and advice I want to get. I got 4 or 5 guys that I go to, and that's who I listen to. I don't listen to anyone other than those 4 or 5 guys, plus my wife. And I think Moses is the same way. But there are a lot of kids that don't have that close inner circle that they can really trust. So they're pulled all over the place. I don't think a fan base has as much impact on guys returning as fan bases maybe would like to think. I just don't. Fan bases all across the country love their guys. They don't want to see them leave. But I think it's a business decision. Am I guaranteed to be taken in the first round? If you are, it's hard not to go, Nick, because I'm telling you, a first round draft pick, those NBA teams are invested in those guys and they have to make them work. Like, you can't have a first round draft pick and it doesn't work out. So you have a really longer period of time to prove yourself as a player, as opposed to a second round pick or a guy that just makes the squad and goes undrafted. Those first round guys are of high value to a program in the NBA. They're going to invest in you in every possible way and try to make sure that first round pick plays off. That's why if you are a first round pick and you're pretty much guaranteed, it's hard to pass up.
And even though they might not want to see him go, any Razorback fan will be supporting Moses Moody in any decision that he makes coming up. So, Jimmy, let's jump around now just to some quick other topics that Razorback fans have been talking about. The first is the first person you mentioned in this conversation, and that's Eric Musselman, turning this program around in just 2 short years, bringing them to an Elite Eight for the first time since 1995. It all comes down to now Hunter Yurachek saying, we're going to reevaluate and have a sit down with Eric Musselman's contract. How important is it for Hunter Yurachek in Arkansas to get something done with Eric Musselman?
Yeah, that should be a pretty short conversation. I think, because Eric Musselman has proven, not only in Arkansas, he proved it at Nevada, and that's why they hired the guy. And he's more than capable of doing that somewhere else. Whether it's whatever schools out there, whatever opportunities out there, and not this spring, but maybe next spring. And I think Coach Muss, I've gotten to know him pretty well. I think he's pretty confident he can build something sustainable here at Arkansas. He knows the fan base is cannot wait to get back in Bud Walton Arena. What a missed opportunity we had this year as fans of Arkansas to not be able to get in there, because with this type of season, man, that place would have been rocking there late in the year when they had Alabama and LSU in the building on back-to-back games. So From what I know about Hunter Yurachek, he's a good businessman. He's a smart guy, smart in his hiring of Eric. And I think both sides are intent, I would think, on keeping him here because it is very difficult to do what Coach Musselman did. Very, very difficult. That's hard to do, man. Nate Oates did it in 2 years. Eric Musselman did it in 2 years. It's a really short list of guys that can do it. So if you're Arkansas and you're serious about being a national contender again and getting back where you were under Nolan, battling for a national championship, I think you got a guy right now you need to keep on your campus. His name's Eric Musselman.
We'll see if they can get something done. I know those conversations probably happened right as he got off the plane. We talked so much about Moses and the talented freshman he was this whole year, a guy who emerged a freshman and had a great NCAA tournament and a great end of the stretch was Devoe Davis. And you mentioned him just a bit earlier, really coming into his own and being a key factor for this team going forward. Just what do you think of Devoe Davis and his play late in the year?
Love Devoe Davis. I think I was singing his praises before anybody else on the national media was doing it because I saw how hard that kid played. I saw him change the game defensively at Tennessee early in the year. He made a phenomenal defensive play that I know Eric showed his team the next day. He said, this is how we have to play if we're going to be the Warriors that we want to be. He just has a heart and a fight and a toughness about him that's really hard to find. And he became a better basketball player as the year went on. His mid-range game is really good. But he's got a lot of Patrick Beverly in him. He's got a lot of Alvin Robertson and Darrell Walker, two guys that I played with at Arkansas. Just a fight and a toughness about him that's hard to find. And he's got a chance next year to be a first-team all-league guy, and more importantly, continue the DNA and the grit and the toughness of Arkansas. I think it all started with him this year as a true freshman. That should only continue going forward. He's a very, very valuable piece to that Arkansas program right now.
Kind of like a guy you want to build around, the nucleus of your team. And that's going to be important, Jimmy, because what I want to ask you about lastly is where does this program go for now? Let's say, in hypothetical purposes, Moses does go to the NBA. You also lose Justin Smith and Tate. You're bringing back guys like Devoe Davis and Jalen Williams. But what is this team? Where do they go? Do they pick up some size in the transfer market? What's the next step that this team has to do to maintain being a top 10 team in the nation?
Yeah, well, you're losing some really good players. I mean, all those guys you mentioned, Tate and Moody, Justin Smith, you go back and look at the meaningful ball games this year for Arkansas, those are the guys that were getting it done. And Devoe Davis as well. So I know Eric and his staff, like everybody else, they're not the only ones out there right now that are fighting it every single day, fighting for those transfers that are out there, those grad transfers. There's a few high school kids that are left as well. But it's the good thing about Arkansas is they have such momentum and a lot of spark right now off that run to the Elite Eight. And when you can call a recruit now and say, I'm Coach Muss from Arkansas, man, there's instant credibility. Guys want to go where they're going to win. And that's why Justin Smith left Indiana. He wanted to go somewhere and win, and it paid off really well for him. So that's why it was such a big deal for Arkansas to do what they did this year, because now the blueprint's there. You come to Arkansas, I plug you in my system, we roll, and then you're ready for the NBA after another year or two. So Arkansas needs a little bit of everything. You got to have a dynamic point guard. You got to have more size on the inside to help Jalen Williams. You can never have too many shooters on the floor. I'm not saying things that Coach Muss and his staff don't already know, but I trust that guy to identify talent as well as anybody out there right now in the college game.
Jimmy Dykes, college basketball analyst for ESPN, the SEC Network, a former scout, NBA scout for the Seattle Supersonics. I keep listing titles, coach at Arkansas, former coach. Jimmy, thank you so much for joining us. I know not many people are as plugged into Razorback sports are you, and so I appreciate you giving us all the input today.
Hey, welcome to Arkansas, Nick. Woo pig.